Imagine waking up inside a 30-room mansion, wrapped in the absolute certainty of centuries of tradition, royal status, and global deference, only to find yourself, years later, watching your titles vanish, your reputation shatter, and a police convoy waiting outside your door. It sounds like the opening act of a political thriller, but for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the man the world once knew as Prince Andrew, this nightmare became a reality on his 66th birthday. What began as a slow fall from grace has recently escalated into a live criminal investigation, forcing us to ask a terrifying question. How does a prince who once had everything end up looking for an escape route out of the country entirely? Welcome to British Affairs, where we peel back the layers of tradition to examine the high-stakes reality operating behind palace walls. Today, we are breaking down the extraordinary, unprecedented collapse of a royal titan and the hidden structural fractures that could soon change the British monarchy forever. For decades, Andrew seemed entirely untouchable. He was not just another royal relative tucked quietly into the background at family gatherings. He was the second son of Queen Elizabeth II, a genuine war veteran, a senior working royal, and a trade ambassador representing British interests across the globe. In nearly every way, he appeared to have inherited the ultimate blueprint for a life of consequence and security. But history has a stubborn, brutal habit of turning fairy tales into cautionary tales. To understand the sheer scale of today's controversy, we have to travel back to the very beginning, long before the headlines turned dark. Andrew Albert Christian Edward entered the world inside Buckingham Palace in February of 1960. From the moment he arrived, his future seemed flawlessly mapped out: royal status, national prominence, and a level of privilege few could even comprehend. At one point, he was second in line to the throne, the constitutional equivalent of sitting front row at the world's most exclusive theater. Unlike some royal figures whose military careers amounted to little more than ceremonial appearances and highly polished uniforms, Andrew genuinely served. He flew helicopters in the Royal Navy, taking part in active combat during the Falklands War. For years, that service earned him real, deep-seated respect from the British public. His military background became the strongest pillar supporting his public image. People did not just see a prince, they saw a serviceman who had put himself in harm's way for his country. Then came 2001, a year that would eventually prove far more significant than anyone realized at the time. Andrew was appointed the United Kingdom's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. On paper, the title sounds slightly dull, perhaps even bureaucratic. In reality, it was an incredibly influential position. He became Britain's global salesman, handed a diplomatic passport, and told to charm world leaders, open doors, and build relationships on behalf of the nation. It was a role built on trust, a trust that would later face the ultimate interrogation. Sometimes a life story carries one seemingly ordinary detail that later grows to consume the entire plot. In Andrew's story, that detail had a name: Jeffrey Epstein. According to Andrew's own account, the two met through Ghislaine Maxwell in the late 1990s. At the time, powerful people meeting other powerful people was hardly headline material. In certain elite circles, it is practically a hobby. But as the years passed and the horrific reality of Epstein's operations emerged, the public scrutiny intensified into a burning spotlight. Then came the photographs. The images showing Andrew walking alongside Epstein in New York, taken after Epstein's early conviction, became an absolute public relations disaster. The problem was not merely the photograph itself. It was the timing, the optics, and the devastating question everyone immediately began asking: why maintain any connection at all? That question lingered for years, hanging over the royal family like an unwelcome guest who refuses to leave. Eventually, the pressure became impossible to ignore, leading to a moment that historians of the modern monarchy will be discussing for decades: the November 2019 BBC Newsnight interview. Andrew sat down with Emily Maitlis, hoping to clear his name and defend his actions. Instead, the interview rapidly became one of the most self-destructive public appearances by any public figure in history. Imagine trying to put out a small kitchen fire and accidentally setting the entire neighborhood ablaze. Every answer seemed to generate fresh criticism. Every explanation appeared to raise additional, highly uncomfortable questions. Clips went viral across the globe, and within days, Andrew announced he would step back from public duties. For a royal family built on carefully managed appearances, it was a SD.